Welcome back to Explain America. This is your host, Kyle Becker. Well, we're seeing the aftermath of the Jimmy Kimmel suspension. Liberals losing their minds over supposed free speech concerns. Where were they during the Biden administration? But someone is definitely putting CNN in its place when they invited a less familiar figure to rebuke them on air for the assassination of Charlie Kirk and their coverage of it, which was absolutely disturbing and reckless. But we will get into this very shortly. Please like, share, and comment at Explain America. We appreciate your support for common sense journalism. So, a war veteran and conservative commentator named Peter Mayer, he appeared on a CNN panel and dropped a truth bomb that is still reverberating throughout the network. Of course, he is talking about Jimmy Kimmel and his return to the air after a brief suspension, a naughty room timeout for willful disinformation that was putting the lives of MAGA supporters at risk. But Peter Mayer, we'll give him the floor because he absolutely put this beautifully. I think you're going to enjoy this hot take from him.
I mean, I'm really trying to plumb the depths of my profound indifference for Jimmy Kimmel's career here. But to your point on the echo chambers, that's very real. And this was what got Jimmy Kimmel in this problem in the first place. He was reiterating a lie, and it is a lie, that the assassin of Charlie Kirk was motivated by right-of-center beliefs. 1 in 3 Democrats believe that.
I don't know if that's actually what he was saying.
No, that's
I don't think that's what he was saying.
He said that's not what he was saying, that they were trying to score political points.
But by saying it was anyone other than what it was. And again, if that was occurring in a vacuum, if you didn't have Democratic elected officials repeating that same lie, if you didn't have 1 in 3 Democrats believing that same lie, I do not think this would have that salience. And that is the problem with the echo chambers, is all of a sudden you find anything to blame everybody outside of your network. Right? I do not remember the last time on any of the broadcast late night shows there was a Republican elected representative. They go on Bill Maher, but for the Democratic elected officials, it's a rite of passage. That's why.
So what do you think about what he had to say? I mean, we're really looking at only 37% of Americans, according to polling, know that Charlie Kirk's assassin was a left-wing ideologue. We're talking about Democrats that, a third of them think he's a right-winger or a MAGA supporter. So Jimmy Kimmel was feeding a disinformation system that is giving rise to political violence. And to be frank with you, it's not just Jimmy Kimmel, but it's the entire Democratic Party that continues to ignorantly and maliciously abuse terms like fascist, Nazi, and so forth. And we even saw Kamala Harris call Trump a communist dictator in her interview last night.
A tyrant. We used to compare the strength of our democracy to communist dictators. That's what we're dealing with right now in Donald Trump. And these titans of industry are not speaking up.
Of course, she was cuckoo for Cocoa Pops using this brand. I don't even know how you can be a fascist, a communist, a Nazi, all of this at the same time. They're just grab bag reaching for any epithet they could think of. And that makes you not trust them. You cannot trust anything they have to say because, what's next? That Donald Trump was a member of the Khmer Rouge? I mean, give me a break. They are just off the deep end. They're grasping at straws. They're a desperate party. They know that the majority of Americans do not agree with their radical extremist views on every woke issue you can possibly imagine, ranging from trans ideology all the way through border policy and crime prevention and how to treat criminals and how to keep Americans safe and, economic policy all the way down the line. They're an atrocious party. They're in free fall, so nobody should be giving them a hand up. And they are just digging themselves a deeper hole because essentially they've lost all credibility with the mainstream of America. The news is eventually going to catch up to them that Tyler Robinson was not a MAGA supporter. I mean, we have an entire trial that it can be televised in Utah. And it wasn't just him. Remember, there was a radical, and we learned his identity later on, that shot up a ABC 10 studio in the Sacramento area. And it turns out this guy was upset about Jimmy Kimmel's suspension as well. We had other attacks on the media, and we had, a bomb scare. And all of these attacks, they're radical violence and just not getting the coverage of the mostly false and overblown claims of right-wing political violence. And of course, right-wing, if you're a political analyst here, it's every grab bag thing that basically isn't left-wing or Islamic violence. Like anything, if it's an anarchist, it's right-wing. If it's a white supremacist movement, it's right-wing. If it's neo-Nazi is right-wing. Everything is right-wing. Guy happened to be conservative is a right-wing. Everything is right-wing. But if it's a left-winger who does it, it has to be a very clear-cut case with no mixed ideology whatsoever. And, that like with the case with the Waukesha Parade massacre by a BLM supporter. So there are so many cases of this. It's almost lost count at this point. Misclassifications of violence and so forth. So the bottom line on all of this is that the left-wing media is intentionally creating and perpetuating a disinformation system in order to activate radical ideologues with violent tendencies to commit acts of political violence or terrorism. So that seems to be what's going on in the media right now. And bravo to Peter Mayer for calling this out on CNN. I don't think they had a good response to any of this because they know they are only damning themselves if they try to excuse this behavior. We need more of this on CNN to balance out their completely one-sided and biased coverage. Weigh in with your thoughts below. We appreciate hearing from you at Explain America.